gracias a Charlie y Sergio, todos de ustedes, la oportunidad de compartir con ustedes los valores de nuestra compañía Patagonia. Nearly 50 years ago, Yvon Chouinard, the founder of Patagonia, along with his close friend and climbing partner, who was also my close friend and climbing partner, Doug Tompkins, they drove an old Ford van from California to Argentina to make an ascent of the great Cerro Fitzroy. And that trip had an enormous influence on Yvon and Doug. The great natural beauty of Patagonia, Patagonia the place, Patagonia, Argentina, that became the foundation for their lifelong commitments to protecting nature. For Doug, it was the direct inspiration for his decision to use his wealth that he made as a businessman to create national parks here in your country and in Chile. And for Yvon, it's why he chose to call his company Patagonia. And those of you familiar with our logo, you'll recognize that the high peak on that skyline is Cerro Fitzroy. That journey nearly 50 years ago also became the direct inspiration for Yvon's commitment to use the company as a tool for environmental protection. And like Doug and Yvon, I've also been a lifelong mountaineer, and with them and with the others of our companions in the mountains, in our own lifetimes, we've seen the wild places that we love become forever changed. We've witnessed with our own eyes the forests disappear, the grasslands erode, the deserts expand. With our own eyes over our short lifetimes, we've seen the glaciers we once climbed melt, never to return. And we've watched with increasing alarm the annual increase in global temperatures, the increase in extreme storms that you heard Charlie tell you about, the increase in the acidification of seawater, the eutrophication of fresh water. And most sadly for us, we've witnessed with our own eyes the decline of the biodiversity, and we've heard with our own ears the growing silence in the forest as the number of birds and animals have declined, and in many cases, gone extinct. With my good friend Paul Pullman and his company Unilever, we've come to understand the profound truth that without a healthy planet, there will be no healthy societies. And without healthy societies, there are no healthy markets. And without healthy markets, not a single one of us in this room can expect to have healthy businesses. Patagonia and Unilever have come to realize that by dedicating our companies to being leaders in sustainability, by dedicating our businesses to decreasing our impact on the planet's environment and increasing the social justice of our planet's societies, that we're also, at the same time, increasing our revenue, increasing our profits, increasing our value. There's 7 reasons why a commitment to sustainability will increase the value of your businesses. 7 that I've come up with anyway. The first one is pretty obvious, and that's that sustainability saves money. Microsoft has developed an internal carbon tax, and that creates a competition among its departments to reduce their greenhouse gas emissions. And that is saving the company $10 million a year in energy costs. Dow Chemical says that its sustainability commitments will in aggregate, by 2025, save them $18 million. And my colleague, Paul, in the factories that Unilever owns around the world, since 2008, have avoided costs that exceed 600 million euros. Now, Paul also realizes the second value from sustainability, and that is the brand reward, the positive press that Unilever enjoys from these commitments. But it's not only the recognition they receive from reducing their environmental impacts in their factories, but it's the credit they receive from the increased safety and health of their workers. And if we at Patagonia have any secret to our success, it's that. We have a minuscule advertising budget because we don't need one, because we get so much free press from our sustainability and environmental commitments and initiatives. And we all know that in the age of social media, what we call earned media is much, much more valuable than advertising you pay for. But all the praise that we receive in the press at Patagonia has, as we say in English, put us on a pedestal. And that's always a vulnerable position to be in. And that's why we pay very close attention to the third reason for commitments to sustainability, and that's that you manage the risk of to your brand through your supply chain. The way we manage risk in our supply chain is following the business rule that you can't manage what you don't measure. And here we rely on a footprint measurement tools that have been created by what's called the Sustainable Apparel Coalition. This is a group of apparel and footwear companies that we at Patagonia started 5 years ago in a partnership with Walmart. And we now have almost 50% of the entire global revenue of our sectors, footwear and apparel, in the coalition. That's over 400 brands, the biggest ones in the world. We have many manufacturing companies that together own thousands of factories. We've completed the tool that measures the environmental footprint of factories. It's called the HIG Index. And in less than 2 years, in 18 months, we have over 8,000 factories that have been measured with this tool and have begun their road towards improvement. But the HIG Index in particular, and sustainability measurement and reporting in general, is also the fourth reason for committing to sustainability, because these measurement tools are being used increasingly as filters by equity fund managers. In addition to that HIG tool that measures the footprint of factories I just mentioned, the Apparel Coalition has another tool that measures the overall sustainability commitments of the companies, of the brands. And just 2 weeks ago, 10 days now, I was in Copenhagen, and I had a meeting with Petter Johnson, who is the Chief Investment Officer for the Norwegian Sovereign Wealth Fund. And he said that all his fund managers are now using the HIG, our measurement tool, as a screen to decide what apparel and footwear companies to invest in. Now, I'm sure many of you in the room, probably most of you know, that this is the largest equity investment fund in the world. They own between 1% and 2% of all the publicly traded stock on planet Earth. But Fund managers aren't the only people using sustainability commitments to screen companies for their decisions. Young people coming out of business schools are increasingly only interested in companies making these commitments and recruiting the best and the brightest coming into the workplace today. That's the fifth reason. 2 years ago, I was at the Sun Valley Conference. Some of you may know about this. It brings together most of the top business leaders in North America and other parts of the world. And Michael Bloomberg, the former mayor of New York, made this point to the audience about how most of the brightest young people will only work for companies that are making these commitments. And as he was talking, he pointed to Rupert Murdoch, who was in the front row between Warren Buffett and Bill Gates. And he said, "Do you think Rupert is greening the News Corporation because he's becoming an environmentalist?" Of course not. Now, at that Sun Valley event, I shared a panel with Mike Duke, the previous CEO of Walmart, and Muhtar Kent, the CEO of Coca-Cola, and we explained to the business leaders that we manage our organizations for sustainability because, among other reasons, including all the ones I just mentioned, it allows us to stay ahead of regulation. Certainly, there's hardly any other large multinational who understands this more than Unilever. And Paul has led his company in increasing their mix of renewables in their energy portfolio because he knows that it's when, not if, but when governments bring more carbon taxes online, that his company will be at a competitive advantage over those who continue to rely on traditional energy produced by fossil fuels and electricity generated from environmentally damaging mega dams. So now to the seventh reason, and that is that consumers of our products are increasingly aligning to brands that demonstrate commitments to environmental protection and to social justice. Now, I list this as number 7, not because it's the most important, but actually for the opposite reason, that in the short term, it's probably the least important right now. But everyone in this room would be smart to recognize that that's changing very quickly, that surveys are all supporting the fact that more and more consumers, especially young millennials, are, as we say in English, voting with their wallets. And they're voting to support brands that make meaningful and transparent commitments to sustainability. Those are the 7 reasons. But there's an 8th reason as well. And I didn't include it in the list because many would probably argue that it's not connected to business value, although at Patagonia and at Unilever, we feel the opposite is true. The 8th reason is the fact that every year, the indicators of the health of our planet continue to go in the wrong direction. Global temperatures, ocean acidification, freshwater eutrophication, deforestation, desertification, extinction of species, all the things you heard Charlie talk about. And at Patagonia, these are the measurements that we use in what business people call the key performance indicators. Those are things that measure the health of your planet. At Patagonia, the health of your company. At Patagonia, the health of our planet are our key performance indicators. And when we look at them, clearly, we conclude that we're not doing nearly enough. And we know we can't do it alone. Clearly, the only way we're going to reverse those numbers to return our planet to health for all of us is to take collective action. And that includes action by every single one of you in the room here this afternoon. Yo estuve con Doug Tompkins en el kayak cuando se dio vuelta hace 5 meses, a mí parece 5 años. Estuvimos juntos en el agua helada mucho tiempo. Por alguna razón, yo sobreviví, Doug murió. Él era mi amigo, mi mentor, mi inspiración. Su esposa, Chris, la viuda Chris Tompkins, es la madrina de mi esposa y de mis 3 hijas. En la semana pasada, Yvonne Chouinard, su esposa Malinda, yo estuvimos con Chris, trabajando con ella, con su equipo, en el proyecto para la creación de nuevo Parque Nacional Ibarra en el norte de su país y en la extinción del Parque Nacional Patagonia en el sur de Argentina. Somos familia y estamos haciendo eso porque, como Doug, la familia está enamorada con su país. Y como les dije, eso es la razón que nuestra empresa lleva el nombre Patagonia. Así que vengo acá, no como norteamericana que pensando que sé lo que debo decirles sobre cómo manejar sus negocios, sus empresas, sino como familia. Y como toda familia de fuertes vínculos, compartimos nuestros sentimientos más profundos. Todo de ustedes, Charlie, Paul, yo, todo de nosotros estamos viviendo en el mismo hogar. Y todos de nosotros ahora podemos ver cómo la salud de nuestro hogar, nuestro planeta Tierra, se deteriora tan aceleradamente que llegará el momento que ya no podrá albergarnos. Y por eso, del corazón, les pido que consideren lo que Paul y Charlie y yo les estamos pidiendo. Es bueno para sus negocios, es bueno para el planeta. Desde mi corazón, les pido que sean buenos guardianes de sus maravillas naturalezas, que aumenten la protección de estas maravillas naturales que aumenten su sistema de parques nacionales y no construyen represas innecesarias que degradará para siempre las maravillas naturales de sus ríos. Queremos ayudarlos. Eso es lo que hace familias. Gracias.